I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora.
Welcome to another episode of Screen Snark. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I am one of your other hosts. That makes two hosts, listeners. I am Rachel Quirky Shank. Welcome.
And it is our pleasure to introduce Carriage Return, who is our guest.
Woo!
Hi, I'm the guest.
Yes.
Thank you, Carriage. I've gotten to work with Carriage quite a bit through We Burlesque and Magical Girl Burlesque. And he goes way back with a good friend of mine, MJ, who I'm doing a different podcast with. I'm really glad that you were... So, a little backstory before we get into all the movies we've watched, and I'll start that. I get a message from Carriage, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or so, and just so excited about that I have a podcast and that I'm doing all these different podcasts, and then I told...
That you have a podcast?
Well, that I have several.
I'm so excited for your one podcast, Matt Storm.
And then I mentioned the movie podcast, and they go, that's the one I want to come on. And so I was like, then please do.
Good.
But it's clear that you're very excited to talk about movies, which I'm glad, especially considering off air the movie you told us you saw. Because I know nothing about it other than the marketing, and the marketing tells you nothing about it, which is maybe a good thing. But
it tells you nothing.
Waka waka waka. But we'll start with me. So my movie is a rewatch on good old Netflix, and it was the Black Panther movie.
Amazing. Love it.
Easily still one of my favorite Marvel movies. And that's including Thor Ragnarok, which I love also, but for different reasons. I just think that the thing about Black Panther is the soundtrack, the special effects, the acting, the writing, the directing, the cinematography, all of it is phenomenal. There's not a weak part in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's my favorite thing about it. And also, Killmonger is easily one of the best villains in Marvel because you can relate to him.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to relate to villains.
He's definitely in the
technically.
running for solid Marvel villain alongside Spider-Man Homecoming.
Michael Keaton is the Vulture. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was very good too.
It's something that I'm hoping in the future Marvel's going to focus more on, the internal lives of their villains, because up to that point, what did we have? We had Loki, I guess?
Yeah.
And Loki was so flaky.
Well, yeah. Well, by the third Thor movie, even he was
choked up.
I heard that. By the third Thor movie, even Thor is I know you, dude. You're
it's
predictable.
done. Yeah.
And
no,
so,
Killmonger was fantastic.
yeah. Did you see Black Panther as well, Carriage?
Yes, I have.
I just wanted to make sure.
It took 6 months
That's
for
fair.
me to see it, and it was still in theaters, so it was one of those
Because it ruled.
yeah, it ruled, and it ran for a long time. The few other movies that I can remember that happening with are Titanic and Life is Beautiful, which ran for forever, and I knew because I worked at a movie theater when that was playing. And
Ooh.
we kept showing it, and kept showing it, and kept showing it, and kept showing it.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those movies that I'm gonna go back to frequently, just because, I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and for the duds that are there and everything, most of them I can watch those movies straight through, and there's never really a moment where I go, I'm bored, or I click away on my browser. But there are Thor 2 and Avengers: Age of Ultron do have lulls in the narrative that aren't always intriguing, but what I love about Black Panther is I'm so in it the entire movie. Every character has me, and even what's his name, Martin Freeman, who plays, I can't remember his character's name, but he's so good in that.
Bilbo.
He's not Bilbo.
Are you sure? He's Bilbo and everything.
Oh, that's true. He must be.
Arthur.
He's Arthur.
Arthur.
Oh yeah, that's true. I love that Hitchhiker's Guide movie.
Interesting.
It's not as good as the book, and I love the book.
No.
But I think it's because of Mos Def and Martin Freeman that I like that movie, because they're so charming.
Yeah.
Even though it's definitely not a good movie.
I only saw it once, and I remember a liking a couple scenes, and I don't remember the rest of the movie.
I mean, that's fair.
I just liked how wacky it was. It
Yeah.
came at a time when I was like, what's this weird thing? I love weird. Oh, boy. Awakenings to awkward.
I'm quirky.
Quirky. Everyone compares me to Zoe de Chanel.
You know, my quirky movie was Amelie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of
same.
course.
Yeah,
Same.
that
Everybody.
was like,
I am Amelie.
We could probably do a whole podcast on
I will fit
Amelie.
in it
I actually want to see the musical. Oh, wait, no, it's not on anymore, right? Did the musical end its run, the Amelie musical?
Yeah.
It did,
The Amelie
I wa-
musical was taken by the Bruce Springsteen
Oh, that's
musical?
right. They're doing a Bruce Springsteen
Yeah.
one.
I don't know if they're still doing that. Thank
Who
God I
knows?
don't have to go to Midtown anymore.
Amelie must have been just a blip, because I remember 2 Christmases ago, I was in LA, and there were all the signs for like Amelie. And
Yeah.
I remember there was talk of it coming here, and there were some people talking about the way it was. And then, oh, okay, no, you're right. It did happen because one of my friends who's a costume designer said that she thought it was a really incredible ensemble.
Yeah, well, like the lead who played,
Philippa Sue.
yeah, she from Hamilton, and
Welcome
so like,
to my Broadway musical podcast.
right, but like I love, like every other nerd who loves hip hop, I loved Hamilton, and so like, and I liked her a lot. Like I thought she was phenomenal, and so I really wanted to see it. And then I remember like blinking and it was gone.
And it was
like,
gone.
Oh,
It did
it
not
was-
stick around very long.
But
It sounds like it didn't last. It lasted as long as High Fidelity the musical did.
I forgot that one happened.
Yeah.
Or Groundhog Day the musical.
that I remember happening because I had a friend who was in it.
Yeah.
I saw it.
I saw it too.
It was.
I heard it was okay.
It was fine.
Yeah. It didn't answer the question of why did this need to get made, but
Right.
Yeah.
everybody in it was decent, and the effects I thought were. I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For those of you who are listening, I'm making the spinning motion that the stage did. It was this really cool mechanical piece.
Yeah.
And like
was-
the use of miniatures
the
and the puppetry.
technical design was amazing.
Yeah, it was really
And then they
good.
put that one guy in a fat suit, and I was like, no.
No.
Yeah, no fat suits. But anyway,
Yeah.
going back,
But back to Black Panther.
I'm
wow.
musical.
We did it.
I'm actually very excited. Also, I was talking to my wife about this recently. Shuri, who is incredible in the movie, the character, just got her own comic series, and I think there are 3 issues out now. And I'm really
cool.
excited to read it because I don't even know anything about it. I just know the cover of the newest issue has her on it and Groot and Rocket, and whatever that's about is going to be amazing. So I want to read that. But if I had to review. So we do 3-word reviews of our movies.
You don't
and
necessarily have to be a sequential sentence. They
No.
can be descriptors. They can be a sentence.
Okay.
You're allowed to curse
But
if you want to.
I guess I will say I will say Afrofuturism is one word, right? It's a
I think
hyphenated
it's a
word.
hyphenate.
So Afrofuturism kicks ass.
Yeah,
That's my
yeah,
3-word
yeah.
review.
I love Black Panther.
Yeah.
I adore that T'Challa is not quippy. He's
Me too.
very literal. He's very earnest.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about him. It's so refreshing. That movie is refreshing on a lot of
Well,
levels.
it allows the other characters to be quippy. Like, also, I love Andy Serkis playing Claw because I like Andy Serkis in everything. But it's the first time you really get to see Andy Serkis being goofy because his
Yeah.
villains are usually really serious and stoic, and this character is just off the wall. Like, there's some throwaway line when they're fighting in the casino where he goes, "Oh, you should hear my mixtape," as he's like blasting people.
Yeah.
And it's just,
Yeah,
I
it's-
really dug that kind of stuff. And you were only able to do that because T'Challa was so stoic.
Yeah.
Like, same with M'Baku. Like, the line where he's like, "We'll eat you. We're vegetarians," when they're threatening Martin Freeman's character. Like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You can have those funny moments because the rest of
Yeah.
the movie, for the most part, is pretty sincere.
Like Amelie the musical, it is an incredible ensemble piece.
Yes, it is.
Well, I also feel that Black Panther was able to do this thing where there were a lot of serious characters who had funny moments that you wouldn't necessarily recognize because it's not like your typical Marvel movie where they're all,
Like, they're elbowing each other.
like where
we're
somebody
so
turns to the
clever.
camera and is like, "We're going on a journey, mixtape." Like,
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a raccoon.
Yeah.
I'm full of shit.
Yeah. Hey.
Batteries.
Something Spider-Man. Like there was that one, oh god, I can't remember which Spider-Man movie it was. I think it was the second Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, where he's walking around in New York and there's this one lady playing a violin and she's busking and she's singing the original Spider-Man theme.
That's not just any lady. That's Lucy Lawless.
That's amazing.
That was Lucy Lawless?
It was Lucy Lawless.
Very good.
That did not look like Lucy Lawless.
I'm pretty sure that was her cameo. She has a cameo in that movie. I think that was it.
Well, because didn't like Cameron Manheim have a cameo? Because there was like Cameron Manheim talking about his butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Spider-Man.
Sometimes I wish I didn't, but
that's fair.
I mean, that was one of the albums where the first Spider-Man movie, I bought the soundtrack for that awful Chad Kroeger song.
It was Chad Kroeger and
is it the one that's it's here?
Yeah, it was him and Josephine Scott.
Yeah.
He was the lead singer of Saliva. So he was the lead singer of Nickelback and the lead singer of Survivor, Saliva. Yes, I know these things because I'm a music nerd and shameless. But yeah, we all bought the soundtrack for that song. So it was that, and then I think it was the second soundtrack that had that Dashboard Confessional song.
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I loved Dashboard Confessional back in the day.
Who didn't? But enough about what I saw. Rachel, what is the most recent movie you saw?
Before we do that, I would like to take a little side quest down Trivia Lane for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and this will jump into my next bit. Did you know that Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok were shot at the same time?
No.
At the same time.
I didn't know that.
And so, when the Russo brothers were working through how to do Infinity War, they were going to set for both of these movies, trying to figure out what they were going to do with their movie. And they discovered that Ryan Coogler and his team had drawn a really detailed map of Wakanda, and that helped them to decide that the big battle sequence at the end of Infinity War was going to take place in Wakanda. That's in the bonus features of the extras at the end of Infinity War. Which I have now watched 3.5 times since it has been available on DVD for reasons that shall make themselves apparent later.
Okay.
I promise I'm not a masochist. I'm doing it for research.
Yeah, that's a lot of crying. I don't know that I could.
Yeah.
It's like my wife wanted to watch Coco, and I just was not in the mood to cry because I know I was going to. I'm sure it's beautiful, but I just wasn't ready.
I watched it on the plane to Portugal, and that was kind of a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, I still enjoyed it, but it was
of
just
course.
very much like you're sitting there trying to be cool on the plane while you're like, no,
remember me. Oh gosh. So I've been watching a lot of movies for, I guess, work purposes. I re-watched Deadpool 2 to be a part of Case Atkins' show Another Pass, because as you will listen to that episode of Another Pass, and all of them, listeners, Case has a really great show. I wanted to change the spoiler alert for Deadpool 2, the fridging of Vanessa.
Yeah.
And in my pitch, I explained how the movie would have been better had she still been a viable character throughout it. But you can listen to that on your own time. Instead, I want to talk about the movie that I watched yesterday after a long journey back from the White Mountains of New Hampshire. I was really tired and knew that I could not talk about movies that we've already talked about at length here. So I was like, what's gonna happen? What's on my mind? And it turned out what I wanted to watch was DreamWorks' The Road to El Dorado. That is what my heart resolved on, and I gotta say,
still holds up?
It's pretty cute. Like it's a well done piece of animation.
Had you seen it before?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
I just want to make sure.
I was in the middle of watching it and realized I watched it before at my last apartment, and now I'm like, am I going to have a tradition that I watch The Road to El Dorado in every new apartment from now on? Probably, because it's adorable.
Yeah.
It's a solid piece of cartoon. I can see why it didn't get so much acclaim and like make back its box office. It's a little safe, and I think it was paying homage to the Bob Hope, Bing Crosby road movie at a time when nobody cared about that. Because I was watching it and I was thinking, wow, this is very similar that whole thing. And there's actually during their drug trip scene when they're like, it's tough to be a god, and they're like doing the juice. Their faces morph in that scene, and one of them looks like Bing Crosby, and the other one looks a little bit like Bob Hope, which I thought was a really cute little nod to those road movies. But I enjoyed it. The music is fine. The animation's pretty. I'd watch it again, but that's because it's an easy watch to get through. You're just like, yay, it's done. Fun. Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh recorded together in the same room, and you can tell that chemistry is happening, and you're just like, oh, it's two bards. I love it.
Yeah. I recall really loving it, but I couldn't tell you when the last time I watched it was. Like, the most recent thing in my mind is the GIF I always use when people post something with two options on Facebook. I'll always use the GIF of both. Yeah, you know, that one. So I remember that.
Funny little meme factory.
But yeah, I remember really liking it. But also, I feel like when I was a kid, like, a lot of the cartoon movies, like, I had a repertoire, and it wasn't in it. Like, Aladdin was one I watched all the time. Lady and the Tramp I watched all the time. You know, all of the Winnie the Pooh movies and stuff. So but I remember watching a lot of the DreamWorks animated movies too. When did that come out?
2000.
Really? I thought it was the 90s. I kept thinking it was earlier
right,
than that.
right there in 2000. It came out the same year as Emperor's New Groove.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely remember Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah. I'd say Emperor's New Groove is the better of
the
those
superior movie.
two movies in.
I mean, anything with
2000.
Patrick Warburton for me is like always
pretty much.
superior.
Yeah, he saw a DM of me in a sexy cosplay of Brock Samson once.
Oh,
and
nice.
That was real weird.
Oh, did he like a tweet or something?
He liked the event that Clara Coquette put together.
Nice.
Her first producing, it was Venture Brothers.
Oh, right,
and so
because
I did my
she
Brock
was
Samson fan
Monarch,
dance.
wasn't she?
Yeah.
That's right.
And Patrick Warburton was like, oh, if only I could be in New York on that night. And so she sent him a picture of me in like my fan dance Brock Samson look.
That's amazing.
So that's every time someone says Patrick Warburton, I'm like, pretty sure my mostly naked body slid into his DMs once.
Nice.
So that's weird. But yeah, I liked it. I'm sad that it didn't do so well because I read in the trivia, because that's what I do when I watch movies, I read the trivia, that had it been more successful, we would have had more adventures with Miguel and Trulio all over the place. Like they'd have had sequels and sequels. They'd have been what Shrek did.
Right,
But
where it's
like,
just sequel after sequel.
Yeah. Which makes me sad because they have such good chemistry. Also, my headcanon, they are lovers. They are most definitely
why not?
lovers.
Yeah.
Which is how they were originally written.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Trulio and Miguel were going to be lovers. But the suits at DreamWorks didn't like it. And they were like, no, it has to get hetero in here. So Chell was written in. And it makes me sad because I'm like, no, those two boys, they're very much in love.
Yeah.
Like, they do it all the time. All the time.
While singing.
While singing.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on Road to El Dorado, Carriage?
I saw it once, and all I really remember is Chell, I guess her name is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just because she's animated in that way that is very, like, anti-Disney, but also, like, the things that, I forget what this was, but I remember watching somebody talk about animating and women, and when you're trying to, like uber feminize a woman and make her, like, sexy, and you can't go, like, the hentai route and, like, just, you know, with, like, large boobs, they accentuate the hips.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's very hippie.
She's very hippie.
Yeah.
Same thing with, like, the mom in, I think it's Dexter's Laboratory.
Yes.
Because,
she
like,
was.
again, to make her more feminine, they were like, okay, we're gonna give her no torso, and then she's gonna be all hips.
Well, we've talked about this on the podcast in a previous episode, but like Elastigirl in The Incredibles is also drawn a similar
Yes.
way.
Very
Yes.
hippie.
Yeah. If you had to give it a 3-word review, what would it be? Besides the title, which is 3 words. Oh no, Road to El Dorado. No, 3 words. Yeah, okay. Sorry, math is hard.
Then there's colonialism, which is kind of what I think at any of those, like, white man deity
Yep.
weirdness. It's cute though. Like it's
Yeah.
cute. It's watch it with your kids. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Look, as long as Song of the South exists, no other animated movie will be worse.
You know, and what's really great is it does have a moment where the chief is hip to the fact that these guys aren't gods, but
Right.
like he's going with it, you
Got
know,
it.
because he loves them. They're lovable goofs, and I get it. But yeah, it's fine. It was okay. I liked it.
All right.
I need to go watch it again now.
I mean,
Yeah, I should go back
why
and watch
not?
it.
Also, Elton John's music's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
It's Eldorado.
he was like the animated musician
Yeah,
in that time
at
period
time,
between
yeah.
Lion King and a few
Yeah,
others.
he was working with Tim Rice again,
Yeah.
and at the same time, they were working on Aida.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Which Aida was supposed. I think it was at some point in time it was pitched as a movie because there were
Yep.
like character drawings that were floating around, but in the like very very like, hey, maybe we could do this, as opposed to, you know, here's our storyboard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, which I saw Aida on Broadway. It was.
I still haven't seen any Disney or animated adjacent Broadway shows, and I want to. I just haven't.
I've seen.
Like I haven't seen Aladdin, which I really want to. I haven't seen Lion King. I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast, which isn't on anymore.
I saw it with children, Beauty
Yeah.
and the Beast. So
I've seen. So I saw Aida. I've seen Beauty and the Beast, Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
I did not see The Little Mermaid. Haven't seen The Lion King. I've seen Aladdin. Seen Frozen.
Oh, I have seen Finding Nemo the musical.
Oh.
They do it at Disney. It's their
Oh,
in-house
yeah.
musical. That was, I think it was essentially a lot of what I've heard. I don't know if this is 100% true. All of the Disney musicals that have gone to Broadway are like workshopped at Disney. And Finding Nemo was supposed to be the next one, but it was a pretty big hit at Animal Kingdom, so they just kept it there.
Okay.
That's cool.
The music was really good.
Well, I've heard
Yeah.
people say that about Aladdin,
Yeah.
that they've seen like the musical extravaganza at Disney,
Yeah.
and it's very, very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never been to the Florida Disney, and I
Yeah.
have like.
I went for the
last
first time last year. It was amazing.
I want to go.
It's just like, I was skeptical. I did the whole like Disney, whatever, and then I saw Goofy for the first time, and I turned into like a 5-year-old. It was,
fine.
it really
It's
is a
fine.
magical
Yeah.
place.
But there's also a power in musicals, though.
Yeah.
Like I saw the Legally Blonde musical and walked in and going, ugh. And then by the end, I was like, I'm sparkly and beautiful, and I'm so glad I watched this musical.
I don't know what
Love
they did,
musicals.
but like the Legally Blonde musical did something really well that
Yeah.
I haven't seen a whole lot of other musicals do. Like the movie to musical,
Yeah,
right? Musical.
the transition.
Yeah, like because some of them have not been good.
Yes.
No. And I think
That's correct.
Legally Blonde has the already solid boon of the main character being so earnest, because I think that's what really works for musicals.
Yeah,
Like that very tender, earnest want. She wants to get back with her college boyfriend, so she will go to law school to do it. I've studied a lot of like musical improv and sort of the idea of how to get that musical number is through that emotional, earnest nature. And because it is so fanciful in her caricature and the change she goes through on her journey is like perfect for a musical.
that makes sense. Because and with the earnestness, she even has in the movie the lines about like everybody likes me.
Yeah, I think so.
And then
Yeah.
my other favorite one, which is, what was it? I grew up in Bel Air, Warren, across the street from Aaron Spelling. I think most people would agree that's better than some stuffy old Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
The movie was fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I hear that the SpongeBob musical is actually fantastic, and it's the same reason. It's because the lead characters are just so earnest, and the music is done really well.
Yeah.
Um,
By a lot of different artists, which
yeah.
I'm so there for on
Yeah.
that.
But now let's get to our guest's
Yes.
movie. So, Carriage, what was the most recent movie you saw?
Yesterday, I went and I saw The Nun.
Okay. So, for those who don't know, The Nun is a relatively recent, as of this recording, released horror movie.
Yeah.
all I've seen in the trailers is a young nun in all white being terrified by older nuns with freaky faces. Like, literally, that's all I've seen.
Yeah.
Was there a plot?
How spoilery are we allowed to be?
I guess since it's new. So this will be out. From when we're recording, it'll be out in about a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like you could be a little
okay, I mean, I'll
spoilery.
give it-
So here's
Yeah.
this. Here's a spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear spoilers, skip ahead like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So the basic plot is that there is this like weird monastery in Romania that's off in the woods and up and high in the mountain, and all of the people in the town nearby are like, those nuns, we never see them. They're creepy.
Yes. Okay.
And,
I'm with you.
Yeah, and the movie opens up with one of the nuns like jumping out of a window and committing suicide. And then it flashes to the Vatican, and they hire this one guy who sounds like Antonio Banderas and looks kind of like Daddy, and he goes to England to pick up the nun that you see in white, and she's not a nun yet, she's a novice. And so they go to the monastery, or it's not a monastery, the abbey, to try and figure out if it's still like consecrated. The movie has nothing to do with Catholicism. Like, I've never really heard about that we have. I've never heard about abbeys having to be on consecrated ground. Although that's explained in the movie eventually, so maybe that was just a part of that plot line, and they just did not write it well.
It could be.
There was a whole subplot with like a relic that was a glass ball that inside of it had a little glass cross that held the blood of Jesus. And I was like, this seems like a really important thing that you're just kind of tossing out there. Like, yeah, it's the blood of Jesus. Yeah, who doesn't have that?
Everybody. You know what? Everybody's got it's bone or hair of somebody. So whatever.
Well,
it's
there's
Jesus,
like,
it's fine.
there's like, I mean, there's a difference between, you know, we have the
toe bone of Saint
Saint Viridian of
Yeah.
Kabaschloss
There you go. Sure.
of Rome in ancient, in like, you know, the
Yeah.
16th century, who was famous for
You really complicated this. It's gonna be like, we got a
Making-
piece of Peter's rib cage. It's
Yeah.
fine.
like, who was famous for making the turnips grow when everybody was hungry.
Yeah.
You know, there's like that type of miracle, and then there's like, you know, we had the blood of Jesus.
Like rural.
Yeah. Although the thing that like kind of weirded me with that part is because I grew up Catholic and I went to an all boys Catholic high school, which basically made me the way I am today.
Figures. Blame the religion.
Right. If you are Catholic, then when the priest is blessing the Eucharist and the wine, the belief is that the wine literally becomes
the blood of Christ. Yeah, I remember.
Transubstantiation.
So it was
the
like
weirdest, but I'm there with you.
But
raised
so
Catholic.
yeah, it's like, why do you care that you have this when your priest could just like
Created.
Make it
Yeah.
happen.
Technically.
Yeah, well, there was also a scene where there were a bunch of scenes where I was like, my D&D player kept popping up because there's one scene where like the demon is in a giant pool of water that's like in a well, and she's like, "Arr," and the priest is like coming up, and the priest has already been shown to have like a cross and have holy water and whatever, and
The tools.
all the tools. And I was like, just bless the water.
Yeah.
And then make it holy water, even though it's like also moldy and shit.
Yeah.
And then like the demon will be in holy water, and you can like, I don't know.
Then
Isn't that how that works?
Yeah.
that demon's in trouble because they do not like holy water. Now she's swimming in it.
Right. And the
Yeah.
stairs are all the way over there. Like,
Yeah.
I think that there were a lot of missed opportunities. Like there's another scene where Priest Antonio Daddy is like getting beat up by a demon nun, and then somebody comes in and like hits the demon nun out of the way because it's fairly early on, so you're like, he's not gonna die.
Right.
You know, he's not ready to die yet. There's no like sacrifice about to happen, and I was just waiting for that moment of like, you know, she's like shotgun blast, like we'll have none of that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like what you really needed was what I'm hearing is Bruce Campbell should have been in that movie with a
Yes.
chainsaw and a shotgun, and
Yeah.
then it would have been better.
And
Yeah.
a rosary.
I also think that I was a little sad because I didn't have like the friends that I go and like just riff track everything.
Yeah.
Like I remember I went to go see Fallen Kingdom with a friend of mine, and just the whole time I was making jokes and she was cracking up. And
Yeah.
I'm sure this was to the detriment of everybody else around us. But you know
Probably.
what? It was Fallen Kingdom. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
So I'm getting a sense that this movie wasn't very good. Were you scared at all? Did it scare you at all?
It was very atmospheric, and I
Okay.
really liked a lot of the shots and a lot of the
that's good.
settings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was I really liked that.
So you like the look?
Yeah, I also really appreciate when movies can do absolute silence and
yes.
and just sit into that. Like that's one of the few things that I give M. Night Shyamalan credit for is
Yeah.
that some of his I remember I went to go see The Village when it came out.
Oh boy.
And that movie has some scenes and some things, but there were a lot of moments where things were happening on screen, but nobody was talking on screen. There's no like mournful violins of doom in the background, and nobody in the theater was talking. And I was like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Because
Like it almost felt like you didn't want to breathe because you
Yeah.
make so much noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Those
like,
moments are great.
yeah, M. Night Shyamalan is able to do that, and I have to give him credit for that because
Yeah.
like so many directors can't seem to do that. The only other real time, so this movie I thought was able to do that, which I was really impressed by.
Cool.
The other movie that I have had that moment in was in Mad Max Fury Road.
Really?
Because we went to go see it, and like it opens with the car chase,
Right.
and then the car chase keeps going, and the car chase keeps going, and the more car chase keeps going, and car chase keeps going, and then they're car chasing through like an electrical storm tornado thing, and like 20 minutes into the movie, finally everything stops, and there's like it's dead silent, and everybody in the theater was like.
Amazing.
Like a sigh of relief because of just all of the
Like everybody
oversaturation of noise.
unclenched.
Yeah.
And then everybody started laughing because we all could hear each other unclench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you enjoy the experience?
I did. I
Okay.
did.
I mean, it sounds like you're the kind of person who can make the light of even the worst situations when it comes to movies.
Yeah, I mean, it depends upon the movie, but this one, I didn't feel like it lasted for forever because there's some movies where I'm just like, oh my god, when is this gonna end? And that to me is a bad sign. This movie kept me engaged all the way through.
That's cool.
And are you a big horror fan?
I'm not a big horror fan,
But
but
you
I
like
do
to see.
enjoy horror, and I
Okay.
like bad horror.
Love it.
It was engaging. It was very like moody, and I really liked the atmosphere, and it had some good potential riff moments, like the Jesus blood ball thing. The way it was, and it was like also on a chain. When they brought it out, and again, I wish I had my friends with me because I just start going to myself like, 3 shall be the number of the counting, and the number of the counting. That's what it looked like.
Right, sure. Well, that's like I told a story on this podcast already, so I won't tell the whole story again. But essentially, the scene in the Fellowship of the Ring where is it Boromir who gets shot full of arrows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boromir dies. I made a crack mimicking Ace Ventura when nature calls when he gets the spears in his legs.
Oh,
And I said to my friend, "It's in the bone," and we all started laughing. And so now I can't watch. Like that scene is so sad and so
Yeah.
heartbreaking, but it's not for me because of that kind of
the funny-
nonsense.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the Infinity War moment when the general, the hologram general,
yeah.
is talking to Don Cheadle. And he's like, the world's on fire. And I just, every time I'm like, how about yours?
I have that with Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire. Because
I love that movie, and I love to hate that movie. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Agreed.
I
just,
wish I had watched it as a double feature with El Dorado. I think they make
so I always
That-
confuse them
yeah.
too because they are very
Yeah.
similar and of the same time.
which is
Yeah.
since El Dorado came out with Emperor's New Groove, I think it's much closer to Atlantis than it is.
Which came out the year after.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I have feelings about Atlantis.
Yeah.
But I was watching it with a friend of mine and in college, and at the very end, you know, everything's been all done, and then all of the Atlanteans are on their like fish mobiles, and they're like all circling around the city. And my friend was like, "Where the hell are they going?"
That's good.
Because they're just circling around the city.
It's like, and there's nothing else around.
Yeah.
That's good.
So now every time I see it get to that point, I'm like, where the hell are they going?
All right, well, let's have your 3-word review. How would you review The Nun in 3 words?
Get drunk first.
Cha-ching!
Winner. Guests are always way sharper than we are on those,
Yeah.
but I appreciate that.
We had the time to set it up.
We did.
It's true.
So, Carriage, your full performer name is Carriage Return. I first saw you perform when you did a Hades act at Magical Girl Burlesque.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen a few of your acts since then, and I always get a sense of, like, old school Hollywood kind of, you know, cinematic, starlet kind of performance in the acts I've seen.
Oh, I like that.
Except for the Toy Soldier act, which is just ridiculous, which I happen to love as well. Would you say that older movies influenced some of your style when it comes to performing?
Probably. Growing up, my parents liked a lot of older movies, so and I pretty much raised myself on Oliver
Nice.
and Hello Dolly.
Excellent.
Very funny. I
can
saw
see that.
that musical with Bet. It was great.
I've heard things.
Okay.
I'm sad that I haven't gotten the chance to see it, but
Yeah.
I've heard it's worth the experience regardless of how you feel about the
Yeah.
show.
well, yeah, a friend of mine saw the show and she had never seen it before. She's a big musical theater fan, and she was like, "There was no plot."
No, no.
That was like, you're right. There is no plot.
No, there's no plot, and there's a very socialist sentiment at the very end, and I'm like, I'm for this. Thank you.
Yeah. So we would watch like old movies. My dad was big into old World War II movies. My mom just liked older movies. Like one of the movies I remember watching at a very young age, which I don't know who let me watch this, but the 1970s Murder on the Orient Express, which is an amazing movie.
Not for kids.
It's not really for kids, but like most of the movie was okay, but that opening like 5 minutes where everything is like dark and creepy and they have like the music going on while they're kidnapping the baby. That part is not for kids.
No. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like we're all around the same age, and like I remember when I was a kid, for the most part my parents didn't monitor what I watched. Like once I had a TV in my room, they didn't care, and I feel like I had access, like, because I feel like, what was it that I saw? I feel like that there were definitely movies I saw in the 80s that like I had I saw Weird Science when I was definitely way too young to see Weird Science, which informed a lot of things.
Yeah.
But like, you know, or Real Genius, or like a lot of those ridiculous 80s movies that I probably had no business watching, or Top Gun, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to ask you, where did your stage name come from? Because a lot of stage names are, I found at least, either puns or like plays on first names.
Yeah.
So Carriage Return, which has always been memorable to me, but I've always been curious where it comes from.
Okay, so as I think about this, I'm sitting here like, I hope this doesn't make me sound weird, but I'm like, whatever.
We're all weird here.
So the very first show I did was a steampunk show. And I was trying to come up with a name because I think like I had been billed as using my, the producer used my last name, and I was like, not really, no.
Yeah.
So I was trying to come up with some names, and I don't know why, but like thinking steampunk, this thing kept sticking out in my head. My dad has always called the return key the Carriage Return, because he's old and from, you know, learned to type in the 70s and whatever.
Right.
Because I remember like we would be doing stuff, or I don't know why I have a memory of doing like DOS prompt with him.
Okay.
But he would sit there and like kind of dictate to me what I'm supposed to do. And he'd be like, blah, 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 Carriage Return, blah, 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 Carriage Return. And he would never say enter key. It was always Carriage Return. And so for that show, I was like, that sounds kind of cool and steampunky, and I think of like so I decided to go with that, and it stuck. It stuck. I didn't see a need to change it afterwards. I wasn't.
Yeah, it's a great name.
I mean, I feel like some of the best burlesque and showbiz names come from moments like that.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of stick. I mean, my favorite thing is I only realized the pun of Anya Keister's name this year.
Really?
And I've known her a long time.
I knew that one right away.
And it was just one of those things where you know what it was, is I had met her through my wife. I hate myself. She always called her by her first name, because the first time I really got to know Anya is she did my wife's makeup for our wedding.
Cool.
And I'd met her sporadically before that, but I didn't really get to know her until after that. And so I always referred to her by first name, and it was one time when we were hosting Totally 90s Trivia when that was still a thing, and I said her full name, and I went, Anya Keister, and I went, oh, I get it now.
Oh my God.
And she literally looked at me like, really?
Yeah.
But I appreciate that the name was more of a thing that you wanted to be aesthetic, and then you just liked it, so you kept it. And how long have you been performing for?
4 or 5 years.
We'll go with
they
5.
all blend together.
Yeah.
Sure.
They all blend together.
All the back rooms and all the bars in all of New York all look the same at a certain point.
Basically. Well, I mean, and at some point in time, you just think of because there's the times you take off. There's the times you're actively working. There's the bars that have all shut down.
Yeah.
There's the bars that haven't shut down, but nobody works at them anymore. It's just there's the bars that change owners and they don't want to work with anybody anymore.
Oh, boy.
How did you know that you wanted to do burlesque? Do you have any theater background? I know a lot of burlesque performers do.
Yes. When I was a kid, I did competitive Irish step dancing.
Excellent. Wait, do you have an Irish step dancing act?
No,
is that a thing you'd still do though?
No, not at the moment. I've thought about it, and it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's not.
I mean, I know it's hard. I've seen it.
Well, it's not even that. It's the matter of it's that the movements are so fast and jerky, even when they're slow, that I can't really figure out how to make it sexy.
Got it.
Well, I mean, because it can be sexy.
Right.
Well, mainly because I'm just thinking of Michael Flatley shirtless, and I don't find that sexy, especially since he
saw
was
Riverdance.
Such a total dickwad.
Yeah.
He was such a total dickwad.
Actually, he is because he's still alive. But
that's true.
Michael Flatley is a dickwad.
Yes.
I once slept with an Irish fast step dance person, and they were cute, so that's fine.
There were some other cute people who did Irish step dancing when I was, I mean, I was 14, so I was
I wasn't 14.
I don't know what's going on because puberty.
Right, of course. Was that your introduction, though, to kind of dance and wanting to perform?
Yeah, that was. So then in college, I got into ballet, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Who knew? You could be pretty. And then I had a million injuries, and I was like, now I'm too tall, too old, and too fat. So I went into musical theater school, where I was still too tall, too old, and too fat, but a little bit less so now. And got into musical theater, and then had a major injury with that. Kind of took some time off. The economy crashed. I had to move about 12 million times. And so right now I think of myself as I'm aging into the roles that I could play, because I was never going to play your Tonys or the dude in Legally Blonde that she falls in love with. I'm gonna play the professor, who sexually assaults her, or I mean, I'm gonna be playing the dads and the big brothers and maybe in the right cast somebody might cast me as a phantom, but it's still older, aura-y, maybe vaguely menacing. So, I was never going to be a chorus boy in my 20s.
Right.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Which can be hard because I went to school with a couple people who have had some major success, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I have an office job, and sometimes I strip for money.
Yeah, I get you. I'm definitely aging into the characters I'm supposed to play, so I'm with you a lot.
Yeah.
So it was like, Juliet, like.
Which I think is also why it's really frustrating to kind of see some of the things as they recast them.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the recent revival of Les Mis, where they decided to cast Valjean as somebody who was like 30 with a six-pack, was like, he spends most of the show as like 60 years old.
Yeah.
And he doesn't go around shirtless, so I don't understand this casting choice.
Right.
And then you have to tell everybody, like, no, it's not him. I don't have a problem with him.
Yeah.
I'm not jealous. I mean, I am, but I'm not, but I am. The issue is with the casting people who, but that's also, I had a musical theater teacher who, my voice teacher told me I was going to be playing Judd for the rest of my life. Get used to it. Judd from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on Judd's song, Lonely House, Lonely Room, Lonely Guy, whatever that song is, where he's like, I need to give myself a woman because I'm sad.
Yeah.
And I took him to the teacher, and the teacher was like, you're not sexy enough. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then he like kept explaining it, and which made it worse because he was just like, well, Lori is, stuck between trying to choose between Curly and Judd, and so like they have to be sexy because otherwise why would she make it? And I was like, dude, you are thinking about this as a 40-something-year-old gay man in New York City in the 21st century, like, who is relatively attractive and has like a 30-inch waist and can hop on Grindr if you need to and like draw from the thousands of whatever that you have available. Like,
also, you do not know the inner workings of a straight woman.
That too, that too.
Just no, come on, like all about the lumbersexual. Are we kidding? Like, think like a straight lady. They date some knuckle draggers.
They do.
Not that you're a knuckle dragger.
Oh God,
not that I'm a knuckle dragger, but I'm like, well, it's like a good friend of mine has said about being attracted to people that look like they would kill you under a bridge.
I mean,
that's fine. Like,
everyone has a type, right?
Everybody's got a something.
Well, so I actually have a question for both of you because you are clearly bigger musical fans than I am. And
I love how this
I get
musicals.
Yelled at all the time. So I like the movie version of Sweeney Todd.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say Phantom of the Opera.
No,
and I was gonna have to end this
that was
fucking
awful.
podcast. I was gonna have to be like, we can't do this anymore. Thank you for listening. We're done. No, okay.
But when I talk about that, and I love musicals, but I'm not a diehard musical fan. I don't listen to musical soundtracks all the time, besides Hamilton, because everybody does.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about movie adaptations of musicals? And like, do you automatically hate them because they're changed? Like, people talking about books to movies, or have you found, like, I never seen Les Mis. I still haven't seen it on Broadway.
Yeah.
I saw the movie. I thought it was okay. I mean, I like Hugh Jackman. I've had a crush on him for as long as I can remember. Yeah. And, like, I thought it was okay. Like, everyone complaining about how some people can't sing. Like, Russell Crowe wasn't a trained singer, and so his people were bashing his performance. But I was like, I don't know. He sounds better than I do. Mm-hmm. So, like, I thought it was okay. But, like, do you find those movies kind of tedious because the theater performances are better? Or do you like them, or does it depend on each musical?
For me, it's a matter of, it's very hard to translate a stage medium into a movie medium without really making some adjustments.
Yeah.
And so I feel that what either happens is the director is, Joel Schumacher, and they're like, we're going to take everything from this stage production and just put it on camera.
Yeah,
and
poorly.
It's hard to watch,
right?
Because all of a sudden, like, what would be a more surrealistic world turns into movie which is a lot more real,
Yeah.
and it just, you know what's going on. Or they do changes that to me don't necessarily make sense. Like I was really excited to see when, was it Rob Marshall, the guy who did Chicago, then went and did
9.
because I thought that like 9 was something that would be a good adaptation
Yeah.
because it was already based on a movie. All of the scenes also fit that whole like Chicago thing of like, hey, we're gonna do the music in somebody's head, and I don't think the movie worked, and I still can't quite figure
Yeah,
out.
I couldn't put my finger on it either. When I walked out, I was like, I don't know why this one didn't work in the same way, because Chicago worked incredibly. But I think that Chicago leaned into its surreal musical nature, because I saw that stage production when I visited New York at like 17, and it was one of those like really strange and odd. They had like the band on stage for the whole thing, and I'd seen the movie before, and I was like, okay, cool, I get it. I get how this translated into that movie, because they just like they leaned into it. They didn't go, well, this is visual movie medium, and we have to make all the music diegetic. But no, like you don't have to. And I think that in the shift to more realism in our movie making makes it harder to do musicals, because some of the like old school MGM musicals are great. Like I loved My Fair Lady. What's another musical that I'm just like, yeah, that one gets it. But those like the pageantry and the willingness to keep a movie feeling like a piece of theater, like the way they would do road shows, and they'd make it like, ooh, it's super exclusive. Oh, there's also intermissions for the movies. I think really lent themselves into the foundation work of a stage musical, where we just don't do the same anymore. Don't hate me for saying this. Despite all of its historic flaws, I enjoyed The Greatest Showman.
I've heard mixed things about it.
I didn't think it was terrible. I thought it was. I thought it would have been better had it had just been about some random guy
instead of somebody who is notoriously not a great person,
who's just a garbage human. And also the Jenny Lind story, I'm like, that's not how it happened. I have a tour guide's license. That's not how it happened. But the pageantry of it and the sort of like colorful surrealism.
Sure.
I dug that.
I haven't seen The Greatest Showman.
Me neither.
I know it's on HBO Go, so I might.
Eventually, yeah.
It's fun.
But I've listened to the soundtrack, and like I thought the music was good and fun and enjoyable. Although there was that moment I had of listening to one of the songs, and I was like, please don't tell me this is the Jenny Lind number. Please don't tell me this is the Jenny Lind number. And then I look it up, and I'm like, this is the Jenny Lind number.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Yep. Jenny Lind was rad.
Yeah.
She was so cool. She deserved a better movie than that stupid movie. Like, she gave a lot of her money to charities in her like home country.
I mean, Hello Dolly, I think, did a better thing with Jenny Lind than that song in Greatest Showman. Because there's that one line in Hello Dolly where Dolly Levi is trying to talk up the store clerk, and she's something about like, who stole Jenny Lind's carriage and rode around with the horses and blah blah bloop bloop.
Yeah.
Just like that.
There's actually a really interesting YouTube video by Lindsay Ellis where she talks in depth about the death of the movie musical, like what happened and how it changed it and what shifted. I highly recommend watching that. It's like about 36 minutes, but she's so smart. Like,
she is.
One day I would love to just be like, do you want to come on my movie podcast, Lindsay Ellis?
We should reach out to Lindsay Ellis. That would be fun.
Just like have a chat.
Well, yeah, that's why I find like, so the recent Disney musicals for me, like, first of all, I loved Moana. I thought the music was fantastic. But like, and then Frozen, like the pop hit was good. The rest of the music was lacking, but the story was great.
Frozen gets a bad rap because it had such a popular song in it. I recommend, now that the storm, oh my god, now that the storm is over, who am I? Rewatching it
I'll
because it
have
has
to.
a lot of merit.
I like the music. I just none of it really stood out to me in the same way that like Moana stuff did. But then again, Moana was also, you know, Lin-Manuel worked on that, and there was a lot of hip hop influence, which I tend to like more than just classic movie musical. But I think what I'm noticing also is like both Frozen and Moana. I haven't seen Coco yet, but these more recent musicals, Disney musicals, have less songs in them. I, for whatever reason, remember, like, there being a song every other scene in the old movies. And, like, now I feel like there's more space between them, which is, I think, better. But also, I think, reflects on our, our shorter attention spans for sticking with the same thing, maybe.
Well, a lot of the, especially when you look...
There's a lot of musical numbers in Moana.
Oh, maybe.
I feel they're
lot.
a little bit more spread out too,
Yeah.
because when you look at the soundtracks of a lot of the Silver Age or the Disney Renaissance from like Little Mermaid on,
Yeah.
one thing that happens with them, and I haven't really looked at this from the older ones because I didn't like a lot of the music or whatever, although that's an entirely different story, and I now have a new appreciation for Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah. And actually Snow White, but we can talk about that later. But anyway, when you look at the soundtracks and look at like where they are in the movie, the music stops or the singing stops around 2/3 of the way in most of them.
Yeah.
So they become dramas more or less after that.
Yeah, because Beauty and the Beast drops off singing probably after Beauty and the Beast, and then it's
Yeah, the
all the action
'Cause then
up
there's
to
the-
the
yeah.
end, and
Little Mermaid, like the last song would either be, I think it's "Kiss the Girl,"
yeah.
It is. I believe so.
and then there's like the rest of the movie.
Well, if you count Ursula's little song in the mirror,
Oh yeah, well no, they're usually like some sort
but
of
that's super diegetic.
And those are
so-
essentially reprises
Yeah.
at that point.
right. There's a lot of like the music kind of like the singing stops, shit gets real, and a lot of times the villain will have some sort of reprise because Aladdin does that. Where
Aladdin
after,
does that. Lion King does that.
yeah,
what else
Lion
from that
King's
age?
music drops off.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the whole tail end with Scar and
Yeah.
Simba, like all of that is all drama and no music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the last song they sing would be "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?"
Yeah.
Because then they still have to like convince him to go.
Yeah.
Meet Rafiki in the clouds. Run with the montage.
Yeah.
Fight on the stone with
Right,
the
because
things.
it's also though I feel like the Silver Age Disney movies had more scoring and music in the musicals, whereas a lot of the movies now, I'm sure there's scoring in the newer movies, but it feels like it's more consistent but spread out musical numbers with less scoring between.
Yeah, because Moana, she's singing right up to the last moment. She puts the heart of Te-Fiti back in Te-Fiti.
And I had the soundtrack
and they
for,
sing at the end too.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had the soundtrack for Moana, and with like Little Mermaid and Lion King and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, like I still remember a lot of the incidental music. So Little Mermaid has like some very definite themes.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast has some very definite themes like that revolve around like that. Da, 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 da. There's a lot of like reprises of that. The Lion King has a lot of like the African various sounds coming through.
Yeah.
Moana, even though it definitely has a sound, I do not find the incidental music as memorable as the songs.
Right.
Which I find to be very different. And I think that fits in with that because the only song I can really pick out that's not sung would be the Village Crazy Lady song, which is like the background music for the grandmother.
Right. Yeah.
And that has a very distinct, drum beat, slow.
Right.
Yeah.
And the rest of the movie, I couldn't tell you.
Interesting. I mean, I also find like it depends on the movie how much I pay attention to the soundtrack or how much I like it. Like, I think one of the reasons I really like Moana is because all of the characters are so strong that even when they are or aren't singing, I'm interested. Like the whole Shiny song. Like I know the song in my head and I can hear it, but I more can picture the scene than hear the music because the character in the moment is so strong and tied to that moment with Tamatoa, which I think is really cool, which I feel like older musicals not so much. Like, to me, Hakuna Matata is more about the song than the scenes. I know there are scenes where he's eating bugs, they're playing around and all of that, but I couldn't tell you the sequence of it.
The image of them walking on the log
That's
and time
it,
is
yeah.
passing is like so like
But like that's the
evocative and
only
burned
thing I
in.
remember.
And,
All the
like,
stuff
him
on either
slurping-
side of
him
it.
slurping the
Yeah.
mug and looking
Yeah.
real gross about it.
Well, yeah, because like like with Little Mermaid, the two ones that I would say would be really fit that for me would then be Kiss the Girl, because it's
course.
so like
It's
let's
so
get it.
It's so
pageant.
tied
Yeah.
to that moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Poor Unfortunate Souls, which
Of course.
Of course.
I used to reenact in the swimming pool in my backyard.
Excellent. We've come full circle.
Yeah, I would say Part of Your World sticks with me, but not for the filming of it.
Yeah.
Not on like a technical level, but just because like that song was the first song I ever learned to sing all by myself. I was like, I want to be Ariel when I grow up. I'm 7 or something,
Funny,
or
'cause
4. I
That
don't
song
know.
always, like when I was a kid, that song bored me.
Yeah, I was
like,
so
I would
there
just-
for that song.
Yeah.
I
Same.
I didn't
So
fast
there
forward
for
through
it.
it, but I wanted to. I mean,
I think the reason Aladdin stuck with me of those movies is because Robin Williams, who I
Yeah.
very well knew as a kid at that point, I was a fan of
Yeah.
his comedy, but also like I wanted to, I'm not really a singer, but like I loved singing Friend Like Me and Prince Ali, like because it was a comedian who has singing talent singing, but he's not a known singer.
Yeah.
And so like I felt like I could reenact that and imitate that. Whereas like other stuff, like all of the like, A Whole New World and all that, like was nowhere in my range or anything I could even imitate. Well, this has become a wonderfully diverse musical and Disney podcast. I feel like
Yeah.
we could probably do a whole separate episode just on Disney movies.
We could. Well, they're important.
They are important, and I feel like there's kind of like you're right. Like there is this kind of weird place that the movie musical's in. Like I find I see more musicals on Broadway and all of that than I go out of my way to see in the theater.
Yeah.
And I feel like also it's because I don't know. There's this weird thing now where like I only feel like I need to see action-packed visual movies in the theater. Everything
Yeah.
else I can watch on a couch since
Yeah.
it all comes to streaming.
and I also feel that it's going back to it being hard to translate.
Yeah.
There are so many shows that have a very specific thing they're doing on stage in addition to people singing at each other that there's no way to translate it, and I don't know if there's a way to get around that. Like
Yeah.
the one that really comes to my mind, which is the musical that I love to hate, is The Last 5 Years. And the movie I also love to hate because they made so many missteps with that movie.
Yeah.
Number one of them, and I always feel weird saying this, but if you're gonna have a song that is sung by a Jewish guy singing a song called Shik's a Goddess, maybe Anna Kendrick is not the person you should be casting as the love interest.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's.
I also think that I haven't seen the film version of The Last 5 Years, but they do the she's going
Yeah.
backward and he's going forward, and how did that work? Did they because I imagine they probably added like dialogue scenes in.
Yeah, well, that's
and-
the other thing is
Yeah.
that since there are more people, that they have to add more people into the movie.
Yeah.
Because in the actual stage production, it is just
Just
the
the
two
two
of
of
them.
them.
people, yeah.
And
Yeah.
they only ever share a scene in the middle at the wedding.
Yeah.
Everything else is like cut to him, cut to her, cut to him, cut to, like in like.
Yeah, I know
but
what you mean.
Lights
Like,
on her,
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
and like they're never together.
I want to sit down and watch it with somebody who hasn't seen
The
or
stage musical.
isn't familiar with the stage musical at all.
Yeah.
And
We'll do
just
that.
be like, what do you think of this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what do you think's happening here?
Right, because there is a lot of that it came into with. I feel like I do this a lot with Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Was that there's so much stuff that I know from being a fan beforehand and having read the books and read the supplements and read
Sure.
this and read that you come into it knowing like, oh yeah, that elf is also the one who did the thing, and then they took the boat, and then they went over to the thing. So
Right.
that's why he's standing right there.
Yeah.
Because he's important to the overall story. It's just they're not bothering to film any of that.
Right.
Or it's like Harry knows to go to the place because he got the map, which came from the Marauders who did it because of this, and so therefore, so like my mind is filling in all of those gaps, and I don't know quite how it translates to somebody who hasn't.
I see. I can do that with the MCU stuff. Like I'm for a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, I'm a big comic book fan. So like I fill in those gaps that I often wonder. Like if you're seeing the first Iron Man, and they don't necessarily talk about the kind of person his father was and why he's doing this. Like, I fill in those gaps because I know who he's supposed to be and why he's doing what he's doing. But it is interesting to like wonder what other people think of that stuff.
I felt that way about X-Men Apocalypse.
Yes. Well, first of all, that movie was a train wreck.
Oh boy, poor
And-
Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
He got in makeup for no reason.
And also, you cast a beautiful woman to play one of the most powerful female characters, Storm, and you cast someone who looks exactly like her, mohawk and everything, and you give her 4 lines. Like, I was so angry that she had no agency, no lines. Same thing with Olivia Munn, who I'm iffy on as an actress, which, like, she's okay in some stuff, and
Who
she's
does Olivia
not.
Munn play?
She played Psylocke.
Okay,
And,
yeah,
like, looked exactly like Psylocke.
Yeah.
Grunted a couple of times, said a sentence, and that's it.
That's
like,
it.
why have these iconic female characters, these roles filled by people who look like the role and look like they can do so much with it and then do nothing with them?
Yeah.
Faps.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, and I think a good chunk of that had to come from this sense of having these characters that, I'm pretty sure people in the boardroom were like, you want to make an X-Men movie that doesn't have Storm, that doesn't have it doesn't have like Tits McGee and all the others, like
Tits McGee and all the others.
Yes.
X-Men.
and so they couldn't just focus on the characters that they had been building up.
Yeah.
And they couldn't somehow translate the story of Fall of Mutants into that movie.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that happened with the Fall of Mutants in the comic,
Yeah.
and I'm talking preaching to the crowd,
Right.
is that with Archangel, like you had gone through this whole arc of Angel being, this character that you're like, what?
You said Archangel's Arc of Angel.
Oh,
that was nice. That was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you spend all this time with Angel, who's this great character, caring, compassionate. You care. There's no reason to like Angel in that movie. He's a shithead from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then also with that movie, brief X-Men rant before we wrap up because I'm enjoying this conversation. You have some of the most iconic characters in the history that you bring into this movie for the first time, as well as ones who exist like Hank McCoy and Professor X, and you do nothing with them. First of all, the one I'm pissed off the most about is Mystique, because they did such great things with Mystique in the first 2 movies that by the time you got to Apocalypse, I'm like, oh, this is going to be the great revelation. Also, all the shit they set up with Quicksilver and him confronting Magneto, nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nada.
It should have been Magneto or Mystique took Archangel's place.
Yeah.
And then the other 3 then came from people who had been, like Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Like it should have been Magneto, Mystique, Quicksilver, and then like a 4th one that you knew from the other movies that you had a connection to, and you're seeing them go bad.
Yeah.
Or seeing them get corrupted.
Like they should have shown that Havoc survived somehow.
Yeah.
Like instead of spoiler alert, he dies. Like him magically surviving, and then him and Scott having to confront each other.
Yeah.
Like that would have been brilliant, even if it wasn't part of the original story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
But the fanboys.
Because then they throw in the whole like Dark Phoenix thing, and you're like,
at the very
Oh,
end,
they're doing
and that's the
Stop.
next movie. So even though Fox is now that division is owned by Disney and Marvel, the Phoenix movie was already in production, so they're still finishing that, and then Lord knows what they're doing after that.
Are they doing Phoenix or Dark Phoenix?
Dark Phoenix. I think they're jumping straight to it because
See, that's the problem, is that you gotta get through Phoenix to get to Dark Phoenix, otherwise you don't care.
I mean, that's why it failed the first time.
Yeah.
I love Famke Janssen and thought her Jean Grey was actually really
Amazing.
good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you can't, like, she sacrifices herself, has this moment as Phoenix, and then she's Dark Phoenix. That's
yeah.
it.
And then,
it-
and the build-up in the second one was so great, where, like, she
She's
has some
saved.
fire and she's saving everybody, and then, like, there's that brief scene that, like, you think you hallucinate, where you see, like, the
Phoenix
bird
come out.
in the lake, and you're like, oh my god,
It's gonna be great. And then, like, in the first 5 minutes of the third movie, she kills Scott Summers, and you're like, what are we doing?
yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't know how to write those X-Men movies. First Class. See, I had high hopes for Apocalypse because I loved First Class, and I thought Days of Future Past was okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Days of Future Past was a product of the Wolverine party train.
Right.
And that stinks, because...
Yeah. Kitty Pryde should
Kitty
have been the lead.
Pryde, Kitty
I know.
Pryde.
Like, I get why they made
Yeah.
it Wolverine. I get, like, I understand from a marketing perspective, but, like, it should have been Kitty Pryde.
Yeah,
It
they
should have
need-
been
what
Ellen
they,
Page.
what they need to do for that movie franchise is lean into what the comics do, and it is an ensemble piece. It's
Yeah.
like no one character gets all the praise and the glory, and it just so happens that Wolverine became so popular because Hugh Jackman did such a charismatic job.
Right.
And it's the same thing happening with Jennifer Lawrence as
Yeah.
Mystique. Like,
Well, and also-
Mystique is not hopeful. She is not a hero.
Yeah.
But Jennifer Lawrence is so charismatic and charming in that role. Everyone's like, what's happening with Mystique?
Yeah.
Go read issues. I
That's
don't know.
why I think that the cartoon from the 90s
Yes.
had such an impact. It's because that was an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
And
And
they
they
had episodes that focused on each character,
Yeah.
too.
And they make it clear at the beginning, like with like the opening credits, like these are the people in this ensemble.
Yeah.
And
The serialized piece of property would be better in a more serialized television version? Yes.
yes,
It would.
yes,
It
Yeah.
would.
yes. Instead, we got.
I mean, I
humans.
think the problem is back when X-Men came out, there weren't really comic book movies besides the Batman movies, and so they wanted to lean on a big star, and Hugh Jackman was an up-and-coming star,
Yeah.
and Halle Berry was a big star, and so they leaned on those two.
Wow.
I know.
What do you get when
Toad gets struck by lightning. The same thing as everybody else. Ugh. But, you know, like, they wanted to lean on Hugh Jackman because Wolverine was one of the more popular characters.
Yeah.
So I get that for that first movie. But after that, it should have
Yeah.
been an ensemble. And it sort of was in 2, and then 3 it wasn't. And then, like, that's
And
why
they
First
made-
Class worked so well,
Yeah.
is it was an ensemble.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they pulled away from it again.
right. And then they made like Wolverine Origins and Wolverine Memoirs of a Geisha.
So Wolverine
Yeah.
Memoirs of a Geisha, which I actually did an episode of Case's podcast on, of the Wolverine movies before Logan's existence, it wasn't terrible. And now that Logan exists, and having seen Logan, it makes retroactively, which is lazy, but it retroactively makes that movie better because
Okay.
they kind of connect, and you get a sense of Wolverine's arc as a person between those two movies.
Okay.
So I recommend watching it. I mean, there's still pointless characters and pointless moments, but it's probably the best standalone Wolverine anything we've gotten since X-Men 1.
I fell asleep.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. It wasn't good,
I
great.
didn't see it.
It wasn't great. It was okay, but at the time, it was, as a diehard Wolverine fan, it was all I had.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm surprised there hasn't been like, especially with Marvel, and their insistence on TV shows, like why there hasn't been an interest in X-Men related but not X-Men franchises. Like I would love to see Ecstatics.
well, right. Well, they're doing The Gifted right now, which is sort of X Factor. It has Polaris. It has, I think, Blink and a few others. And so, like, it's parallel to what's
Which X Factor are we talking about?
like
'Cause,
the cheesy 90s kind of one, like and so it's okay, it's dark, it's
Yeah.
it's made to be a companion piece to what's the one with the guy with the split personality that I loved, the X-Men TV show Legion. It's a
yeah.
companion piece to Legion, which I also love because those two TV shows are ensemble casts because that's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right.
Well, because I also another one I would love to see if it's also X Factor, but I loved Peter David's run where
Yes.
it's like let's take all these characters nobody gives a shit about and put them in a
them in a
detective agency.
Yeah. No,
Love
totally.
it.
I feel like with you, Carriage, we could talk about movies and comics and everything forever.
Musicals. Where's the X-Men musical?
Right? Like, I mean, Hugh Jackman can sing. What are we waiting for?
I was trying
And
to,
so can Patrick Stewart.
yeah. I'm a part of like a theatery group in New York that has like done some stuff, and for a while I was trying to pitch like it would have not quite been X-Men musical, but like scenes from musicals and shows with superheroes. Like I want to have like do the last scene of A Doll's House where she says like "fuck it" and walks out, but have it be Wonder Woman.
Nice.
Amazing.
Or have I think I had like the people who have seen this musical love it. The people who have never seen it have no idea what it is, but there's like this love duet in The Mystery of Edwin Drood that is like really creepy. And I was like, what if you do Batman and Superman?
Very good.
I'm on board for that.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Oh, no.
I saw that.
I did not. No desire.
I'm a little sad I didn't get to see like the preview version, which apparently was like when it wasn't like, whoa, was really boring.
Yeah.
Mainly because I want to have seen this one scene that my friends have talked about where it's the second act and Arachne is like, what does that Mary Jane have that I don't have? She has shoes. And then like these chorus boys come out in like dancing spider outfits and they're all wearing shoes.
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
So glad I missed that one.
Oh.
Dear Carriage Return, thank you for coming on our
Thank you.
show.
Thank you for having me.
We have one question that I will allow my co-host Rachel to ask you that we ask of all our guests.
True.
Rachel.
Before we do that, I want to say thank you to
I
John
always forget to let you do this. Thank you.
for the use of the song Aurora off the album Fair Game featuring Stefan Remble. Please support John Presnell, listen to his music, check out his music videos. Thank you so much, John. Your song is the perfect bookend to this podcast. Thank you.
I agree. Also, a quick thank you to Katie Bug, who did the logo for Screen Snark. That was the first thing we ever had before we even had a show, really.
It's true. Our hair was so different.
Our hair was so different. She
Thank you,
claims
Katie.
she's going to update it for us and give me a beard and colored hair and you back to your normally hair.
Boo.
Boo.
You know what?
But thank you as well
Thank
to
you.
you for that great logo as well.
Yes. Now, Carriage, the most important question of your adult life, right here on Screen Snark. If you could choose any one movie trope to be true in your life, what would that movie trope be?
Crap.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love when we stump the guests with this.
my
It's
God.
fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it can literally be anything.
Yeah. I have a couple different ideas, but I'm gonna just say one of them.
Okay.
Secret Worlds, like where you have some sort of like Chronicles of Narnia, where like you open the closet and you go into another world, or like
Cool.
Alice in
Yeah.
Wonderland, you open the door and like where like there is another world that is connected, and you know you aren't looking for it, and you just magically stumble into it.
And then you're the only one who knows about it, and then some villain wants to destroy it, and you have to stop them.
Yeah, and you can get away from this shit we call.
Yeah, that's true, right?
2018.
Right. That's a good one. That's a good trope.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Carriage.
Thank you,
Sincerely,
Carriage.
this has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
We'll have to have you back for an all Disney podcast at
Oh,
some point.
boy.
But as always, thank you all for listening.
Thank
Please reach out to us on social media if you have ideas for guests or topics or just want to say hi.
Carriage, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah. So the first episode of my first podcast is out now. It is the podcast is called 12 Months of Christmas, and it's my friend Joe and I going over bad Christmas movies.
Oh, I love
Excellent.
The main thing to know with that one is it is a Patreon exclusive, and it is tied to Mother May I Sleep With podcast, which is a podcast that is about writer Molly McAleer watches Lifetime movies and talks about them. So for $5 a month at the Patreon level, if you go to her Patreon, or the Mother May I Sleep With podcast, because she has a couple different ones. Mother May I Sleep With podcast, there's the Patreon, sign up, $5 a month, and you can get 12 months of Christmas as well. And so we're working on that one. And I also have one that my friend and I are working on that it's going to be about musicals. I'm not sure when it's going to drop, but we've been talking about it. We've been putting this stuff together. We're trying to figure out like the details of that part, but I hope that one comes out in very soon.
Does it have a name yet?
We haven't quite figured that part out.
worries.
We've been looking at like what is it? We've talked about like footlights or all the twinkling lights, green room, something to do with like theater type stuff.
So
right.
just follow Carriage on all of the social media and be informed when that podcast becomes a reality.
Yeah,
Excellent. Yes, and please go listen because it sounds like the
It
Christmas
sounds
one
really
sounds
fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's a whole other
There are
story.
also a lot of bad holiday movies in
Oh,
general.
yes.
And half of them star Dean Cain.
That's true. That's true. Thank you as always for listening. I have been your host, Matt, aka Stormageddon.
I have been your host, Rachel Quirky Shank, and we'll see you at
Aurora.